Okay, here's step by step what happens with dismissive avoidance, why they get into the relationship, why they leave, do they come back, etc. So step one, the dismissive avoidant first meets you. Just like anybody else, a dismissive avoidant has empathy. They want a connection. They want to be with someone. They have all those same feelings of, a love story and romance. Like they are genuinely interested in you when they meet you. However, because of their insecure attachment, they don't really have a very real understanding of love or commitment. They view love as idealization. So when they fall in love with someone, essentially what they're doing is they are idealizing that person. And when they first meet that person, when they first meet you, they don't really take a whole lot of time to get to know you. They kind of rush into the process, sort of like a narcissist would, where the two of you are entering kind of a love bombing honeymoon stage, and it tends to move pretty quickly. The avoidant falls super hard for you, and they are being their absolute best self during this time. Now, I want to make it clear that they are not trying to trick you in any way. They have no idea that things are going to turn bad or that they're going to start getting uncomfortable or start feeling smothered. They have no idea because likely they don't even know they're avoidant. All they know is that they're falling super hard for you. They really like you. They want to be in a relationship with you right away because they're so into you and they think everything about you is absolutely perfect and they just can't wait to be together. If anything, they will be the ones that are initiating things, that are saying I love you first, that are asking you to be their girlfriend or boyfriend first. Like they are initiating as fuck in the beginning of the relationship. So step two, then you guys get into the relationship, right? And this is the stage where you guys would actually start getting to know each other, because in the love bomb honeymoon stage, you're not really actually getting to know each other. You're just getting to know an idealized version of each other. So you're putting each other on pedestals and you're thinking that each other is perfect. Now in step two, you're actually starting to get to know the real person. And this is going to be hard for anyone with insecure attachment, anxious people included, because anyone with insecure attachment views love as fantasy, as idealization. So when that mask starts to fall and you start to see the person as a real person with flaws, with baggage, with shortcomings, that can be difficult. So what will tend to happen in a relationship with a dismissive avoidant is that their partner will ask them to meet a need. So maybe their partner will notice that they're not super consistent with how much time they're spending together. Their partner will come to them, maybe this is a few months into the relationship, their partner will come to them and they'll say something like, hey, it's no big deal, but I just noticed that sometimes it's hard to reach you, or I just need you to be more consistent with how much time we spend together because that's really important to me. The avoidant is very afraid of conflict. They don't like it. So they are most likely going to just appease their partner. And they also genuinely do want to be a good partner. And so they're going to hear what you say. They're going to take that in and they're going to be like, okay, yeah, let me work on that. They're going to try to work on that. They're going to try to be more consistent. You might notice that you'll have a couple really good weeks, but then it will ultimately go back to normal because the avoidant struggles to be super consistent with the time you spend together, with affection, with intimacy, because those are all things that are very hard for them. They need a lot of time to themselves. They need to be very engaged in their hobbies and their work all the time. They don't like feeling like they are obligated to someone. But step three is that this pattern then starts repeating throughout the relationship. So the avoidant goes back to their normal kind of inconsistent behavior. Their partner then gets activated into their anxious state. So then the partner continues coming to them over and over and over, asking to have their needs met. Every time the avoidance partner comes to them, it breaks the avoidant down more and more and more. But the problem is the avoidant isn't saying anything. They're not communicating any of their feelings to their partner because they are so afraid of conflict. And they feel like if they say anything wrong to their partner or kind of rock the boat, that they're going to be rejected. They essentially have a wound of feeling defective at their core. The more and more that their partner comes to them being like, hey, I'm just not satisfied with how things are going. I need you to do this. I need you to do that. And their partner's needs are not crazy. Their partner's needs are not out of the norm. This is a normal thing in relationships. But for an avoidant, they're going to think, oh my God, I'm not good enough. I can't meet my partner's needs. I'm falling short. I can't measure up. I can never do enough for them. They need so much from me. The more and more times that this happens, the more and more the avoidant starts to feel shame. They start to feel like they're not measuring up. They start to feel like they can never be enough for their partner. And when they start feeling all of this shame and all of these feelings of defectiveness, it makes them want to pull away from the relationship because now they feel this pressure and this obligation to their partner to kind of show up perfectly or to be more intimate or vulnerable, but they don't know how. This puts the avoidant into a very activated space. And so the avoidant literally doesn't know what to do. They are so activated, they are so overwhelmed, but they don't know how to communicate it. And so they just start pulling away. Then this makes the anxious person very activated. And so it's just this horrible catch-22 that keeps going around and around. Step 4 is where both people in the relationship now are incredibly activated. This would be the point in the relationship before the discard happens. So for a little while there, the two people can kind of coast, like things are building and building, but you're still kind of coasting. But it gets to a point in the relationship where both people are incredibly activated. The anxious person is constantly feeling suspicious, jealous, anxious, upset, and the avoidant is constantly feeling overwhelmed, suffocated, insecure, ashamed, wanting to pull away, and they are both just triggering the living fuck out of each other all day long. Then that leads to step 5, and step 5 is how the two people in the relationship try to kind of mend the way that they are feeling. So you kind of have to look at what brings each person dopamine in this scenario. So the anxious person, what's going to make the anxious person feel better in this scenario is to fix, control, become hypervigilant, do more, monitor the avoidant, like become hyper focused on the avoidant. That's what's going to kind of soothe the anxious person. Now for the avoidant, that's not the case. That would not make them feel better. What would make the avoidant feel better is finding some outside sources of dopamine to soothe their activation. So this is when you might notice them starting to lie, keep secrets, cheat, get on dating apps, things like that, because they are looking for a way to cope with how they are feeling. They don't know how to just come out and say it. They don't want to rock the boat, cause conflict, and have a conversation about leaving. They just want to make themselves feel better. And I think that for a lot of avoidants in their mind, they're thinking, if I can just make myself feel a little bit better, then maybe I can stay in this relationship and figure it out later. I just need to feel better right now. But of course, then when the avoidant starts doing that shit, it makes the anxious person even more triggered and suspicious. So then the anxious person is going to start acting out even more, which is going to activate the avoidant even more, up into the point where the avoidant then abruptly leaves because they can no longer take it. Or up into the point where the avoidant starts doing so many destructive things that they force the anxious person to leave them.